Good afternoon. It is December the 29th. Only a couple more days left of 2010, and then we're on into 2011. I want to give all of you, everyone who's going to watch this video, what I consider to be a very, very important tip for the new year. And that is to keep a good eye on what is called the inquiry section of your credit report. As most of you, at this point, I think most of you who've watched my videos, who read my blog, you know that there are different sections of a credit report. There's the section where you have your identifying information, your name and address and social security number. There's what is called the trade line section, where you have basically your account histories with your various credit providers, your credit cards and your mortgages and things like that. There's the public records section where you have records of bankruptcies, records of judgments, things like that. And then finally there is the inquiry section, and the inquiry section is divided into two parts. One part is called the hard inquiry section, and one part is called the soft inquiry section. The distinction here is very important, and for what I'm about to tell you. The soft inquiry section is when you make, or when someone makes a pull on your credit report. They pull or they access your credit report, but it does not affect any credit scoring. So for instance, if you pull your own credit report, if for instance, if one of the credit bureaus pulls a credit report, that type of thing, that is called a soft inquiry, and it does not affect credit scoring at all. A hard inquiry is the inquiry that is made on your credit report, or the access to your credit report that is made when you apply for a loan or when you apply for some other type of service, for instance, insurance, employment, that type of thing. That is called a hard inquiry. And there is usually a whole section on the credit reports. Well, there is a whole section on the credit reports that lists all the hard inquiries. Now, one of the things that I'm alerting my clients to, and I'm alerting more and more people to, is the fact that there are literally these days, unfortunately, hundreds, if not thousands, of different types of reports that are prepared on American consumers. There are basically all these little companies springing up all over the place, and they prepare, what are called investigative consumer reports. Generally, they're called investigative consumer reports, and they generally will access your credit report to help in the preparation of the investigative consumer report. If anything, the investigative consumer reports are more prone to have errors in them than the credit bureau reports, because the credit bureaus, they're big, they have sophisticated computer programs and things like that to try to keep the reports more accurate. As we both know, they tend to be inaccurate in most instances to a greater or lesser extent. But I think that the effort has been made, at least on a computerized basis, to try to have them more accurate. The investigative consumer reports, not so. There can be plenty of very false and misleading information in investigative consumer reports, and you need to know about those, because the three main things that people use investigative consumer reports for: insurance applications, landlord-tenant applications if they're applying to rent an apartment or a home, and also employment. Those are the three main areas: insurance, landlord-tenant, employment. There are specific providers of consumer reports, investigative consumer reports for insurance companies, specific providers for landlord-tenant operations, landlords, and specific providers for employment type reports when they're doing background checks and things like that. Again, these second generation investigative consumer reports are liable to have the most incredible false information about you and about other consumers that you could possibly imagine. Now, how do you get to the bottom of investigative consumer reports? Because there's hundreds, if not thousands, of providers of these investigative consumer reports out there. One of the most surefire ways, I'm going to give you two hints here. Number one is when you apply in California, when you apply for insurance, when you apply to rent an apartment or a house, or when you apply for a job, there will be a disclosure box that you will have an opportunity to check, which says you want a copy of any report that is going to be accessed about you in connection with your application. You always have to check that box. You always have to check that box, and then within 5 days under the law, you're supposed to get a copy of the report that's been provided to your insurance agent, your prospective employer, or your prospective landlord. The other way to find out about investigative consumer reports is to look at the hard inquiry or the hard pull section of your credit report, because almost one for one, the companies or the people that compile these investigative consumer reports will access your credit report basically for information to use compiling the investigative consumer report. So, ABC Tenant Screening Company or ABC Employment Screening Company, I'm just using those names randomly, they will show up as a hard inquiry on your credit report with an address and a phone number that you can contact to get a copy of that report. And I'm telling you, you would be amazed. You would be amazed at the amount of false information that is contained in these reports about consumers. Now, these are the things you need to know. Basically, under California law, you have the same right to accurate information in an investigative consumer report as you do in a credit report. If you pull an investigative consumer report and you find out that there's false information in it, you have the right to basically go back to the company that prepared the report and say you need to correct this and this and this. And if they don't do it, they're liable under California law. They're not only liable for your damages, but also your attorney's fees, and also there's penalties on top of it, pretty substantial penalties. In short, there's a definite financial incentive for them to clean up your investigative consumer report to make sure that it's accurate. And if they don't, there's a definite financial incentive for you to sue them and to make them obey the law, because they should be obeying the law. I mean, it's unbelievable right now the amount of just completely false information that is floating out there about everyone, about absolutely everyone. Don't be surprised. I mean, if you ever get a hold of your investigative consumer report and it shows something that's just completely false and inaccurate about you, do not be surprised. Join the club. But what you need to know is under California law, you have the right to get that report cleaned up and make sure that what is being said about you in those investigative consumer reports is accurate. Anyway, I hope you're going to have a great new year. I hope 2011 is going to be a year of financial success, not only for anyone listening to this video, but for the whole country. I think it's about time we need it. And you take care of yourselves.